Hello Year 10. Today we're going to continue looking at the Range Wars. Remember, that's the conflict between cattle ranchers and homesteaders, and we're still focusing on the Johnson County War of 1892. Remember, last lesson we did notes on the background of that war, the events and the results. But now we're going to look at how the examiner might present this topic on the exam paper. And you might get a question like this. Explain the importance of the Johnson County War for law and order in the West. So what I want you to do is just obviously put today's date, put classwork, and put that question, explain the importance of the Johnson County War for law and order in the West as your heading today. Thank you. Okay, Year 10, we now need to do a little recap. So we need to understand the problems of law and order in the West that existed in the 1870s and the 1880s. So remember, people called the new territories the Wild West. They were dangerous places to live, and there were real problems of law and order. And historians have divided those problems into three themes, and you can see them on this blue table under the headings. So we've got problems with the justice system, made it difficult to bring law and order to the West. Conflict over resources made fighting and killing a common thing in the Wild West. And finally, independent attitudes meant that men often took the law into their own hands. So what I need you to do is take a pen and a pencil and a ruler and just make a neat copy of that table in your book. Use about half a page. Pause the video whilst you do that. Now we need to complete the table using the information that you see on the right hand side of the screen. So you'll see there's a table with one column that says problem, one column that says features. Now you need to sort that information because some of that information belongs under the heading problems with the justice system. You need to find it and note it down in the relevant column on the table you've just put in the book. Some of that information matches the idea that conflict over resources made fighting and killing a common thing, and obviously some of that information also matches the idea that independent attitudes meant that men often took the law into their own hands. So you need to go through the table on the right hand side and sort it into those three columns that you've got now in your book. That should take you just about 10 minutes. Pause the video whilst you do that. Okay, now we just need to spend a moment just checking your work. So you can see that I've color coded yellow, green and red where the information belongs. So just spend a second checking that you've got the correct information under weak justice systems, the correct information under conflict over resources, and the correct information under independent attitudes. Just take 2 or 3 minutes to do that. Pause the video whilst you do it. Okay, Year 10, we now need to address our question. So the question that the examiner would pose is explain the importance of the Johnson County War for law and order in the West. So we need to consider how Johnson County War, or our understanding of it, best illustrates those three problems that we've identified in our table. So if you look at my worked examples here, and this is in the red ink, the Johnson County War was important for law and order because it showed that conflict over resources often led to violence. And if you look at your understanding of the Johnson County War, you can explain that in terms of the background and the causes of the war, because obviously the Johnson County War is a conflict over resources between the ranchers and the homesteaders, and you can explain that. You could also explain the Johnson County War was important for law and order because it showed that vigilantism continued to be a problem in the West. That is, people taking the law into their own hands. And as you can see from the example here, you can illustrate through the events of the Johnson County War how the cattle barons were quite willing to take the law into their own hands to solve the problem they perceived they had with the homesteaders in Johnson County. So what I need you to do, this will probably take you about 15 to 20 minutes, is using my starter sentences in red and using the relevant information from your research from last lesson, create a paragraph explaining how the Johnson County War showed that conflict over resources led to violence in the West, and then create a second paragraph showing how the Johnson County War was important for law and order, because clearly it showed that vigilantism continued to be a problem in the West. And remember, vigilantism is taking the law into your own hands. Okay, pause the video whilst you do that. Now we can create one final paragraph about why the Johnson County War was important to law and order, because we can prove the Johnson County War showed that the justice system was weak and corrupt. And we do that by looking at the results of the Johnson County War and our research from last week, because we can argue, obviously, that the homesteaders were never able to get any justice for what was done to them by the cattle barons. And we can explore that by looking at the results column. So you need to spend maybe 5 to 10 minutes just creating this final paragraph, and then you'll have a full explanation about how the Johnson County War illustrates all the problems of law and order in the Wild West in the 1870s and the 1880s. That's the problem of weak justice systems, it's the problem of vigilante justice, and obviously it's the conflict over resources. Once you're done, you need to obviously photograph your work, you need to upload your work, and then you'll get in due course a mark out of 8 and some feedback for your work. Thank you, Year 10.